Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. Welcome to the Emirates here. It's finished Arsenal 0, Everton 0. This was a really disappointing afternoon. I'm sitting here watching the subs having their usual sort of post-match warm down game. I've just seen Leandro Trossard stick a really lovely finish into the bottom corner from a Gabriel Jesus cross. And I couldn't help but think, why on earth couldn't that happen in the game that I've just sat through and watched for 90 minutes, where Arsenal never looked really like scoring a goal at all. This was a really disappointing game. If Fulham last week was a disappointing result and a relatively disappointing performance, but you still looked at that game against Fulham and thought, on another day, Arsenal win that game pretty comfortably. This was like a last season in December type game, where, fair play to Everton. Look, they came in, they'd had 10 days to prepare for this, and you could see they were absolutely drilled. Everything had been drilled into them, how they were going to play, who they were going to mark, what they were going to do, how they were not going to give away a goal, and they did it perfectly. So you've got to credit Everton for the defensive nature of their performance. But Arsenal, they could have done more. It was, Everton didn't really have to break sweat, it felt like anyway. I'm sure they actually did, but it felt like that. It was one of those games you just, after sort of 50, 55 minutes, you just thought Arsenal aren't going to score here. It's just not going to happen. And it's just one of those afternoons where everyone was off. There's going to be more questions raised about Arsenal's attack and whether they should have done more in the summer, whether they should do more this January. All those sort of questions are going to rear up. And they're going to, when you put in performances like this, when you just struggle to look like you're going to be able to unlock what was a very resolute Everton defence. There was a couple of chances, one either side at half-time, probably the best of them. Martin Odegaard had one that Pickford made a good save. He had a few chances, so half chances in the first half. Martin Odegaard could shoot in positions. The third effort was the best chance when Saka got in from Havertz's ball, cut the ball back, and he just took a couple of extra touches, and by the time he got shot away, it took a bit of a deflection off Tarkowski, I think it was, and Pickford saved with his legs and it bounced over. And then early in the second half, Bukayo Saka had a shot on the volley, which Pickford did well, got down low to his left and made a save at the post. But other than that, there was no Alamo, there was no final 30 minutes siege of Arsenal looking to get this goal, looking to get a winner. It just never arrived. Everton felt very comfortable in that final half an hour, and that was a big disappointment. Mikel Arteta's press conference hasn't taken place yet. We'll see what he says down there, but he took Odegaard off of Hartlow, and Odegaard had a really poor afternoon. I think performance-wise, you can't really question the decision to take him off, but when you're really searching for a goal, there would have been a really crucial goal in a title race, if you still consider Arsenal to be in a title race, and that's a question for another day probably. But when you really do need a goal, do you take your best playmaker off with half an hour to go, 35 minutes to go? I don't know. I was very surprised. I just figured like Marino was going to go off, but at the same time he took off Rice. Rice is sort of carrying a bit of an injury that's being managed at the moment. His minutes are clearly being managed. They were in midweek. They were again today. But to take off him and Odegaard at the same time in that second half, I just felt it was a really strange call. It was, a bold call, but I don't think the way the second half panned out after that double substitution, I don't think you can really look at it and say that it worked. I think Everton would have been very relieved, even though Odegaard was having a difficult afternoon. They'd been very relieved not to have Odegaard on the pitch for that final half an hour, and they'd have been very relieved, if anything, just to not have Rice on the pitch for the final half an hour for his set-piece delivery as well. You can kind of see why he made the changes, because Arsenal looked like they were going nowhere. It was 0-0, and you want to change things up. If your team's tiring against a team that's gone 10 days without a game, you do. I expected changes to be made, but I just thought those ones were strange that early on. It was quite. When Nwaneri came on again, it was good sort of show of faith in Nwaneri to come on for Odegaard for that long to go, but he didn't really make much of an impact. Nwaneri, he didn't change anything, and I just felt maybe you bring Nwaneri on, but maybe you keep Odegaard as well and play Nwaneri next to Odegaard, something like that, in a game where you're really struggling. You're seeing loads of the ball, but you're struggling to break down an Everton defence. Just not sure that was the right substitution. But again, it's easy to sit here and question, but it kind of felt like that a little bit. And as I said, the remaining sort of half an hour after that point, other substitutes came on. Jesus came on, offered nothing. Trossard came on, didn't really do much. Put in one nice cross from the left, Trossard. I'm just watching Trossard score another really, really nice goal in the match over there. It's adding to the pain, I think, of what's going on. He put in one nice cross, Trossard, that Havertz nearly got his head to, or just about got his head to at the back post, where you thought as it was coming in, he might threaten a goal with it, but it didn't quite work out. Jesus came on as well. Partey came on in the second half, but none of the changes worked. I mean, the starting lineup, I actually liked the look of the starting lineup. I was sitting in the press room beforehand and saw it. Thought it's an exciting, it's a balanced looking lineup. I like the look of it. I know a lot of people say, he shouldn't have dropped Partey. I don't see he dropped Partey in this game. As I said in the video this morning, I felt like you're managing the right back situation at the moment. One game you're starting Timber, one week you start Partey. You've got to manage that pretty sensibly. Arsenal still are comfortably enough to win this game with Thomas Partey sitting on the substitutes bench. So I like the look of the 11, but it just didn't work. Whether they were tired, I don't know, but there was no spark, there was no creativity, there was no real imagination. I think the biggest disappointment was just that lack of a final 30-minute siege, where it's like, we have to get this goal, just have Everton camp back in their penalty area, shot after shot coming in, chance after chance being created, cross after cross coming in. That just never happened. It was just a strange final half an hour, and I just think the substitutions didn't help with that. It kind of stopped any sort of siege happening in that final half an hour. And Liverpool dropped points as well. You can look at it as either Arsenal got away with one here, or you look at it as another missed opportunity. Now, if Arsenal win the game against Fulham last week and they win this game here, they are right on Liverpool's coattails now and will have a hell of a lot of momentum behind them. But instead, they haven't, and that's a real disappointing. It's been a disappointing week in the Premier League, no doubt about it. It was a nice, good win in the Champions League in midweek, but Premier League-wide, two really disappointing results, two really costly results. And you could really sense the mood around here as that final sort of 5 minutes as injury time ticked away and the realisation came that Arsenal weren't going to get this goal. They weren't going to break down Everton. Just sense the disappointment of all the fans around. It feels like a big day in the title race again, if you still consider Arsenal to be in the title race. But this feels like it's going to be a tough one to come back from this week. It's been a really costly 7 days for Arsenal when it comes to the Premier League. Okay, so player ratings wise, let's go through these. As you can imagine, they're not too great, certainly from an attacking sense. I gave David Raya a 6. I thought Raya played, he was literally a spectator. I can't remember Raya making a save. I don't think he made a save, but he did what he always does. He swept up well. He played basically as another defender, playing so high. He was barely in his penalty area in the second half and kept the ball moving whenever it came back to him. Did perfectly fine. So I gave David Raya a 6. In defence, I gave Timber a 7, Saliba and Gabriel a 7. Gabriel made one really excellent block early on in the first half when Saliba had gone down injured. Everton had broken away. I think it was Decore got in down the left and had a shot, and Gabriel made a really good block. So it was great to see him back. I gave him a 7. Saliba was, excellent. He was just strong as always in what he had to do. I barely gave Calvert-Lewin a sniff. I gave him a 7. Lewis Skelly, delighted that he started again, and I thought he played well. It was a bright spot. Understandably, went off after about 60, 65 minutes. Given his age, cramp issues, physical issues, he was never going to play the full 90, but I thought he played very well when he was on, so I gave him a 7. All the defence did well. I thought they were the standout players for Arsenal, and that says a lot in a game where you absolutely dominate. You barely have to do anything defensively. You're still the standout players. I think that says a lot about how everyone else performed. So Raya a 6, Timber a 7. Well, across the whole back four, I just gave all of them a 7 out of 10. Game midfield, I gave Declan Rice a 6. I thought he was one of Arsenal's better players in the first half. Everton couldn't really get past him midfield. Clearly being managed at the moment. His minutes, his workload went off after 60 minutes. I gave him a 6 out of 10. Marino, it was tidy enough, but it was nothing spectacular. He never looked like a threat. He never looked like he was going to create something or score something or get on the end of something. It was just a bit of a nothing type performance from Marino. I gave him a 5 out of 10. Martin Odegaard, really poor. As I said, he had sort of 3 decent opportunities in the first half that he didn't take. He didn't do enough with either of them. Put one shot over, he put one shot wide, and then the big one, the third one, he just took a few too many touches. But it wasn't just the shooting, it was just this all-round game. It was the same in midweek, to be fair. He's just having a difficult few days. I don't know if everyone's pointing out that he's a new father. He's probably not getting any sleep at the moment. Is that a reason for it? I don't know, but it's just not quite on it at the moment, Martin Odegaard. And I think Arsenal have suffered as a result in the last couple of Premier League games anyway. It's not a good day for him. I gave him a 4 out of 10. Going forward, Bukayo Saka was Arsenal's best of the 3, but he was kept very, very quiet. You could see how hard Everton were working to shut down the space to Saka. Sort of Mikalenko down the right always does well against Saka. Decore was dropping in as well. They were just working really hard to limit his space. He had created the one big chance for Odegaard at the end of the first half, though, and had the chance in the second half of the volley that Pickford did well to save. So I gave Saka a 6 out of 10. The other two in Martinelli and Havertz just weren't in the game at all, really. Martinelli and Havertz both gave a 4. Would have liked to see more from Martinelli, especially when there's so little space for Arsenal down the right-hand side. Could he have done more against, a 39-year-old Ashley Young? You would say, yes, he probably could. Had one shot in the first half that Pickford saved, but other than that, it's just not really looking like he was going to hurt Everton, which sums up Martinelli at the moment. Havertz just not in the game, I didn't think. Did one nice little pass that set up in the build-up to the chance for Odegaard in the first half, but other than that, he was just on the fringes of things, dropped back into midfield in the second half when some of the changes happened, but gave him a 4 out of 10, and that just sort of sums up where Arsenal are or were today in terms of their attacking output. It just wasn't good enough. The subs came on, Wanyeri came on a long time ago, couldn't change anything. I'm just watching him now doing the warm down, he's doing a few sprints there. Wanyeri, it was a good chunk of time on the pitch for him, 30-odd minutes, but I'd have just liked to have seen him alongside Odegaard rather than replacing Odegaard, considering how deep Everton was sitting. When you need a goal, it felt like it would have been better to have both of those players on the pitch rather than just one of them. Jorginho came on to just kind of help Arsenal control things a little bit more in the second half. Again, I think they were just kind of managing Declan Rice's minutes at the moment. Couldn't really influence things. Now, as I said, Trossard came on, couldn't really get involved. Jesus just not in the game at all. There was no Raheem Sterling, obviously. So it's just been a really disappointing afternoon here. Feels like a really, really costly one, I have to say. I wish I could be a lot more cheery heading into Christmas, but unfortunately not the case, because it's been a difficult week for Arsenal when it comes to the Premier League. Really costly, 2 draws, 4 points dropped. Liverpool slipping up, but Arsenal unable to take advantage. That's it from the Emirates. It's finished here. Arsenal 0, Everton 0. Thanks for watching. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.